got some great questions.
Yeah. Okay, Patty, yeah, close it up. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for coming out and joining us today for this amazing panel. I'm Simon Lopez. I'm here hosting on behalf of the American Advertising Federation Las Vegas and Ad2 Las Vegas. Welcome to the Autonomous. The American Advertising Federation connects creatives, marketers, and brands nationwide, pushing our industry forward through community and innovation. And innovation is what tonight's about. AI, much like electricity once did, is changing how we work, think, and create. But remember, AI doesn't know your brand or your story unless you teach it. If you're not training AI to understand your creative language, you're already behind. Tonight's discussion on how AI is changing creative workflows features Jason Trinka, Annie Cho, Fernisha Hayes, Dan Geary, which was not able to make it today, and is moderated by Dr. Aya Shata from UNLV. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Amanda, Director of Sales and Events here at the Autonomous. She's going to speak briefly and share a few words with us. Amanda, come on up. A round of applause.
Thank you, Simon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Autonomous Hotel. I'm the Director of Sales, Catering, and Events. Thank you for the introduction. If you are interested in hosting an event here, I'm the girl to find. Just to tell you a little bit about this hotel, it soft opened July 1st. It is the first of its kind here in Las Vegas to be dual residency. This is a residential as well as hotel property, so think of an elevated Airbnb. And then all of the software, technology, and everything behind the scenes was designed exclusively by our technology company and uses AI every day to enhance the experience of the guests. So it is a work in progress, but a beautiful place, and I'm just really happy you're all here tonight and enjoy the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. So guys, let's get ready to do a deep dive, get ready to think differently, and let's dive into how AI is changing creative workflows. Dr. Ayashata.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. First, thank you, Simon, for the introduction and the timely topic. Simon has put a lot of time and effort into building this, so please give him a round of applause for him, too. So thank you for the panelists for joining us today and for everyone for coming today to join us on this very timely discussion. So I'm going to start with just a simple intro into the introduction of generative AI has generated a lot of debates, right? Some are pro, some are against. So many have talked about like how it is able to increase productivity, how it increase like the scalability, but what about authenticity? What about originality? What about like lots of different issues concerning emotional resonance with your consumers and your brand as well? Also, it's been helping with increasing the content because it helps you with the content generation itself. But what about the quality, of the content itself? Is it really helpful or not? So lots of different topics that we're going to explore with the help of our panelists today. So I'm going to start with a fun question, okay? So in 2 words, I want each panelist to describe what they think or feel about AI in advertising or in the creative workflow. Just 2 words.
This was a tough one. Frustratingly optimistic.
Interesting, optimistic, the mix of both, okay.
Okay, so I made sure I had some speaking points because of that. So Copilot, which basically captures the essence of AI being an assistant and not really replacing the human. And augmented creativity, which is AI's primary role to help us make our workflows faster, to help streamline everything.
Interesting.
Liberating intelligence was the two that I had. And it's more about allowing people to focus on the purpose, not the process, use the tool.
Interesting, very interesting. So there's been a lot of discussion around what is creativity. So I want to ask you, how would you define creativity in advertising or in the creative workflow before AI and after AI? What changed?
I think before AI, it was a lot of deadlines and caffeine and time crunches and just like moments of brilliance that came from that. But I think with AI, you get kind of infinite capabilities to walk down these paths faster and come to an end game sooner, without having to take all that time. So I think it allows you to leverage that a lot more.
Okay, interesting.
I agree with that, but also on the other end of that, AI can make you go down crazy rabbit holes. You know, you get to prompting a little bit too much, and you can go down some crazy rabbit holes. But I think before it was literally the act of human experience, us actually creating and brainstorming and going through the creative process. And now with AI, the AI can do the creative brainstorming for you, where I feel like, you know, it's the symbolic collaboration right now between us doing the brainstorming with AI and actually implementing, and the process is all about scaling, like you said, scaling and moving things a bit faster than it was before.
Interesting.
In my space, I think it depends on where you are in kind of like your creative path, because if you're someone that's younger interacting with AI, I think they use it as an accelerator and they're able to kind of jumpstart their ideas more quickly and just to kind of get to iterating. For those of us that are a little more senior, it kind of helps, like, it helps us get to our ideas faster, but we're better at refining from then on. So I think the applications are different based on where you are in your career and how you're looking to have it leverage and accelerate your creativity, I guess.
So I think everyone is talking about the level of collaboration. You're using AI as a collaborator in the creative process itself, right? Yeah, fine. So which aspect of the creative workflow that you feel benefit the most from AI? Like there are different steps in the creative workflow. Which of them you feel benefit the most?
I mean, I think for me personally, it's more just the ideating and brainstorming phase. Okay. Like, kind of how a lot of us have been using it to just kind of ideate and do rapid iteration overall. So I use it a lot just to kind of refine my thought process, kind of help with like more like outlining. And then from there, I kind of use my own expertise and my experiences then to like refine it further. But like prototyping, research, just kind of like taking huge data dumps and like synthesizing it down. So synthesis is like really huge for me in my space. I'm in product and UX, and so a lot of the tools that we build they're built for people, and so you kind of have to look at like how is AI going to help alleviate whatever it is that person's trying to like solve, like what pain points are we trying to help them overcome in their workflows. And so a lot of people like to slap like the AI label on something, like, oh, AI will fix something for you, just integrate some tool or workflow. But if your process isn't great and you don't understand what you're actually trying to fix, most people will get more frustrated with AI than anything, because it's not actually doing what they are expecting it to do. And so you have to balance out what you're trying to solve and like meeting the user's expectations of like, well, how is this going to help me?
No, I agree with that, with specifically the part about taking your expertise, because right now I think that's where a lot of the younger generation who's coming up in AI, they won't have the foundational tools that we had to obtain before AI ever entered the scene. So, but for me, it's definitely the repetitive and the tedious tasks. So the repetition and the tedious task, and then data analysis. So taking data and being able to look at this vast amount of data, throw it into AI, especially if you've already taken it from, let's say, Google Analytics, you export the report, you can throw it into Google Gemini, and then it'll read this data for you. It can push out some things for you, but knowing if it's true or not, knowing what it said, if it's true or not, is another foundational tool that I was able to obtain before AI actually came into the scene.
Yeah, I agree in both. I use it a lot for data analytics. I use it a lot as a sounding board. I use it a lot to look around corners and see, is there going to be a problem down the road, and how far, and what would that problem be, and what should I be looking out for? There's a lot of different ways to use it. I love that you can use AI to kind of meet you where you're at, like you're talking about younger generations and how older people are using it. And I love that you can use it in all those different ways. But yeah, for me, it's leveraging the tedious, 100%. Like, why do that?
So I think it offers like a level of benefit for each stage or each part of the creative workflow, but in a different way, depending also on the product or the brand that you're working with as well. So speaking also of creativity, what kind of ethical consideration that arise with the whole copyrights and authorship and originality and intellectual property? That's also been a discussion. What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is definitely intellectual properties, especially working for an advertising agency or working for a web design agency. You need to make sure that you're using AI tools that is basically open source, and that it's saying that this intellectual property belongs to whoever is creating it, because then there could be some legal offenses that come into play.
I think authorship and ownership go hand in hand with that, and I think that I think you used the term co-pilot. Like, don't let it fly the plane, but like use it to leverage how you're flying the plane.
I think from like an artist perspective, there's always been people that copy work, and so AI is just like another copycat, right? But I think it's where using your discernment and maybe kind of teaching the ethics behind, like, okay, if you're gonna leverage AI tools for this use case, maybe there's a topic of discussion around the education behind AI ethics that is, it ranges, I think, in whatever industry that you are. I actually work in a very heavily regulated industry, so AI usage is very, very restricted to very specific use cases. And anytime we do use AI-generated content or images, like, we have to very explicitly say, like created by AI. So in my work in tech, we have to author a lot of that content to say that it's AI-generated. So I think it just depends on what kind of industry you're in.
Okay, so since we're speaking AI, there's so many tools that we actually use. I'm curious which AI tools you use, and what is so unique about each tool? If you're using multiple tools, and probably you all are, why are you using those specific tools? What's so unique? What are they bringing kind of to the table or to your work?
So I remember when, oh man, maybe a year or two ago, no, I'm gonna say like 2-3 years ago, because things are moving so fast. I went through and created a spreadsheet of all the different AI tools, and I listed, like, this is for content creation, this is for image generation, this is for creating, I can't even think, slideshow documents, things like that. And out of all the tools that I went through, I narrowed it down to, I use ChatGPT way less than I used to. I use Google Gemini a lot more. I am a Google person at heart, and I use Claude here and there, Midjourney, Adobe Firefly, Adobe Sensei for Photoshop, and Canva. I use their AI tools as well. And I narrowed down to these because there's so many AI tools that you can use right now. You got to kind of figure out which ones are outputting the correct data, which especially for image generation, which one is giving you images that are accurate to what you're prompting and not giving you like five hands and 10 fingers on an image when you're, so just really trying to figure out what is prompting the best, what's giving you that best output when you're putting in prompts. And yeah, that's how I kind of narrowed it down to what I'm going to be using.
I've used all the ones that probably everyone in this room has used, so Sora, ChatGPT, Claude, Gamma, all of that kind of stuff. We got to a point where it couldn't do the things that we needed it to do, so we started building our own. And that's where we found a lot of magic. So we have AI sales agents. We have a rain brain is what we call it. We're rainmaker, so we called it the rain brain. And then we have like an orchestration layer. So we have these 3 different technologies that we built from the ground up to do what we needed it to do. So I think that some of it is using technology that exists out there, and some of it is purpose-building technology for what you want it to do, because there is limitations on what people have built that exists in the world so far.
Yeah, I will admit I keep a very small AI tool set, specifically in my own creative workflow, because I mean, same with everyone else. I think we're a little overwhelmed with how many products and tools that are out there that all say they like optimize your workflow. It doesn't. And so I would say like I'm early on the bandwagon in terms of like, hey, what's new out there, and just kind of getting a really high level introduction into creative tools. But if I were to just really look at what I'm using every day, Figma Make is just something that's quick for me to prototype. I know a lot of people love using Lovable, which is a great prototyping tool today. And at my stage in the career, I do a lot of like stakeholder management and like do storytelling and presentations on research. And so I use Microsoft Copilot and Claude and ChatGPT because I'm really looking for something to kind of help me refine strategic messaging. And it's less about like creative outputs. So unfortunately, I'm not as like exciting of a designer when it comes to like, hey, I'm using all these cool AI tools and for automation. It's more about this stage in my career, where are the places that I want to optimize my creative workflow, and then use my own talents and expertise where it lends itself best. So really like there's 3 probably that I use on a daily basis.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So AI is evolving really fast, and the industry is trying to adapt to that evolution that AI is bringing in. But I feel like we as professionals also, we need to evolve, we need to adapt. So what kind of skills or competencies that you feel like professionals nowadays need to have to be able to survive in this AI-driven kind of market?
I think as creative people or just in marketing and advertising, we're not, like change is not new to us as professionals. So I think something that I do in my own practice of like learning things is spending at least 15 to 30 minutes just kind of like, hey, I heard about this new product, something interesting caught my attention. Let me just kind of explore that for a little bit. And it's not to say that I'm looking to be an expert in all of those things, but like just being knowledgeable about what's kind of out there. You just want to be, I like to use the phrase like just know enough to be dangerous kind of, mentality, so that you can speak intelligently and say like, hey, I'm not the expert in this space, but like I can point you in some kind of direction. And so being a consultant in this space is really about how can I say just enough to show that I understand the space, but then redirect where appropriate.
I'm going to say for sure being a prompt engineer, because even though AI has been here for quite a few years now, a lot of people still don't know how to prompt, and they don't know how to reprompt. So you can enter something and then you can expand on what you originally received when you got something back. So learning how to prompt, I think, is probably the most important part of upskilling. And then strategic thinking and emotional intelligence is something that AI cannot do. AI cannot tell those emotional stories that grasp us. AI cannot create those emotional visuals that capture us and make us sit there and watch Super Bowl commercials. So yeah, emotional intelligence and strategic thinking for sure.
I love the prompt engineering because I think I was talking to my dad earlier, and that was his problem, was prompt. And so I think prompt engineering is huge. I love that they're starting to teach in schools now how to use AI in different vertical workspaces, because people are going to job interviews now, and if you don't know how to leverage technology for whatever they're looking for in that job, you'll lose out to the person that does. So prompt engineering, but just overall learning how to use the tool. And not just let the tool work for you, but learning how to teach the tool, because it is starting to learn and get better and faster as you do more with it. So learning how to teach it to do what you want specifically, and then continue to hold that emotional intelligence. I think that was amazing. Absolutely, it can't care.
Yeah.
So AI is kind of like a disruptive technology, right? Will it open like opportunities for new roles? Will it change the current roles we have? Like sometimes it can change, it can take some roles away, it can add some roles. So what kind of new roles we should be expecting from your experience?
So for sure, AI is a job changer and not a job taker. For all of the people who think it's going to take jobs, it's just changing your job. It's changing the way that you do your job. So like we just mentioned, prompt engineers, we need data scientists, we need people who are actually looking at the AI intelligence and making sure that it's ethical. So yeah, with ethical security, so to speak.
There was some specific titles that I had thought of as we were kind of doing some of this thought orchestration on our end, but an AI orchestrator, a data storyteller, a brand trainer, and a conversational architect. And I think that these are roles that are coming about now that should exist and will likely exist in the future as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would pretty much mirror that. I mean, in the tech space, we actually have a lot of those roles already. We have, conversation designers. We have architects, prompt engineers. We work with machine learning engineers, which are like just a fancy way of saying like they have some level of data science and like back end or front end, skills, coding skills. So I think it's more about, it's really compressing and consolidating a lot of different skills that creative people typically have had in the past. And so we use the word designer. I came from like a graphic designer kind of path, and so you're still a designer today, but that means so much more now with the emergence of AI than it did back then. And so I think that's where it's really interesting to see the evolution where there's certain niches even within the creative space where you can focus on like being an architect for a space or conversation design, which is really like the next level of copywriters today, right? Or editors. It's just, how do you take that craft and now apply that AI like advantage on top of that? And so, yeah, it's just accelerating and compressing a lot of skills.
So I'm curious let's go a little bit like more in depth, especially about the stages of the creative workflow and how you particularly use, because we're here to learn from your experience using AI. So how are you using AI specifically for ideation and brainstorming? Like what kind of experience or examples that you can share with us so that we can learn from your experience too?
I mean, the same way that you would with people. You talk to it and you engage with it and you prompt it again and you go deeper down one thought train and then you see where that goes and then you come back out and you go down another path and I'm using that the same way I would this group of people if we were all to sit here and think and talk and have an opinion and hear what each and every person was able to say.
But do we really come back out the rabbit hole?
I'll let you know. I have yet to.
I have quite a few different businesses that I own myself, and my apparel brand, I've used it to create AI generated models instead of hiring somebody and taking pictures in the apparel that I'm creating. I just created the models and slapped the sayings right on the t-shirts in that graphic. So I use it for model generation, saving money there. Data analysis, which I spoke about already, I'll pop some data into Google Gemini and have it to analyze the data for me. I have a business called Blossom where we take small businesses and we help them go from a small bloom to a big blossom, and we do a lot of workshops based around creating a brand messaging, and we're also implementing how to utilize AI in every step of creating your brand and growing your business. So I'm using it in a lot of different ways for sure.
In the end, we have the Q&A. Yeah, we're definitely going to take the questions, so make sure you remember that. Okay.
Don't forget. I think for me in my space, I use it for initial just kind of research, just kind of formulating, we do like user testing or A/B testing, so kind of using AI to kind of help maybe craft an outline for like questions that we might want to ask participants, and then kind of when drafting those outlines, when we conduct the tests, then I will then use it for the analysis part. So like, okay, take all this, the responses and the questions, and this is what we're looking for. So synthesize this all down to like the top 3 key themes and like some suggestions that might come out of there. So I use it a lot because I'm not like a UX researcher, and a lot of times we don't have the luxury of a researcher on a lot of the products that we design. So I have to then use Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT to kind of be my researcher and like direct it almost for that part of my work.
Yeah. So what about copywriting? How do you use it for copywriting specifically, or what kind of experiences, whether good or bad, that you can share with us about copywriting?
The content? That comes
Let's
out
say
of it?
content instead of copy. Yeah.
So usually I'll have an initial thought, and I'll type up everything that I want to say or how I want to say it and into the AI chatbot, and I say, this is what I want to say. These are the points that I want to get across. Can you rewrite this so that it is hitting this point? It is either creative or persuasive. It is, and I'll just continue to enter and elaborate on that prompt. If it'll spit something out to me, and then I'll go, okay, I want to add this to there. It's missing this section. We need to add some emotional empathy in there. Yeah, I'll continue to prompt until I get that perfect paragraph or perfect message that I want.
I laugh a little bit because I remember distinctly the first time I used AI to text my wife, because I was trying to get a point across and I was not doing a very good job of it. And so I added and prompted and changed and added and prompted. And eventually the point got across. And she was like, that's a really thoughtful message. And I was like,
You normally don't talk like that.
100%. Like, she knew instantly. But it's the thought that counts. And I thought it was so interesting because, yeah, you start with an idea and you iterate it. And you get to see it expanded in a bunch of different tones and directions, and it's powerful to be able to do that. And then you get to find one that you like, but then also one that can be received well.
Yeah. That reminds me of a South Park episode. They literally have an episode where Stan is like prompting AI in his text message to talk to Wendy.
So I don't do a lot of like art, like Gen AI art related. Mine's more just like thoughts and ideas and copywriting. So I don't a lot. No, almost like 99% of the copy that models give. I don't know if it's because I'm from an advertising marketing background. Like, I'm never satisfied. I'm like, no, we can make it better. And like, no amount of prompting can like, there's just human connections and like our own creative brains that make certain themes or ideas work, right? Like, AI can't take that from us. So I'll use it a lot for that purpose, but I don't know if really, unless you were to say to like pull an excerpt from this and like quote this, I don't know if people are really using it. People will find out very quickly that you should not use copy verbatim or like any kind of AI generated artwork verbatim out of the model, because like everyone knows now. Like, there's just something about AI generated content, and you can tell them like, wait, that's fake. And if not, there's like some kind of watermark, like Sora has watermarks. They're like, okay, if you believe that to be real, then like, one, you need to educate yourself some more. But I think copywriting in general, people are getting more aware of AI generated content, so they're able to discern better whether or not like, oh, that's genuine, or that's just AI generated slop that you just put out there and you're just like perpetuating more AI slop. So I think, yeah, people are smart. They're able to kind of make those decisions for themselves. And so I think as creative professionals, we just have to be mindful of like, don't copy paste, right? Like, we're good at our jobs, so we should be better than that anyway. But I guess I wouldn't be too overly concerned with copywriting, just for me specifically. I don't know how anyone else feels, but I know enough to be like, okay, I'll just take that general idea and like, I make it mine.
I don't know if anyone's ever been on an email thread where everyone's using ChatGPT and copy pasting, but it is noticeable.
I think the reason it's noticeable because it gets to be dry, and we are communication professional. Our job is to build relationship and having that emotional connection, so we can easily detect when it gets too dry. And that's why, like, your recommendation is basically to keep revising and editing and having that emotional intelligence that you previously spoke about. Okay, What about production? You know, and this can be an, image generation, video generation, audio generation. How do you feel like it's helping you in that aspect, or what can you share with us from your experience?
I'm gonna leave it to these two professionals because that's not my space.
Okay.
It's definitely making everything faster. But like I was saying before, we always have the issue of making sure that it's outputting the right prompt or the right vision for us. So I will use it, I'll even use a text generator to say, okay, this is the visual that I'm thinking about doing. Can you give me some ideas to make this visually pleasing? Or can you give me ideas that align with this brand's typography? And then, but as a graphic designer, I'll go out and start sketching my own things. So it makes it faster. It helps with the brainstorming process. I just did help my son with a logo because he's trying to start a headphone company, and he called it Black Hole Beats. And I'm like, well, let's prompt some ideas. And yeah, he took that idea prompt, and then we took it into Midjourney, and now he has like this nice clean logo. But then he took that even further and started sketching out some things himself. So
Yeah, leveraging it for speed. That would be the sole use on our side.
So will that speed affect the quality? So it's so quick at spitting those iterations, but is it really scaling it up to the quality and the standards that you use for work? How did this affect you, or did you notice this?
yeah, for sure. I personally don't feel like the quality is the best, especially being a graphic designer and going into all of my Photoshop tools and being able to design myself and being able to draw things out myself. I can take my own drawing, go into Adobe Illustrator, and make that digital. So for me, I do have a certain level of design that I'm trying to achieve, but it does help to speed up the process when you're just trying to get some quick thoughts out the way. And then, you know, if you're not a creative already in that way, some people might like that. But the visuals I have on my website that I use through Midjourney, it took some prompting, okay? It took some good prompting.
So I would say it doesn't affect the quality any worse than if you sped up a timeline for a person and you asked a person to do the task. If you give them a truncated timeline and go, I need you to do this task, but I need you to do it in this amount of time, the quality's probably gonna suffer a little bit. So the amount of time that you're putting into it and scanning it and looking over it and flying that plane, as opposed to just going, I said some stuff and I put it out and I copy pasted it or pushed it forward. It's about your oversight. Like, how much time are you putting in oversight over what's being put out? It can be produced fast, but again, garbage in, garbage out.
Oh, agreed, 100%. Even with Midjourney, you can prompt and it'll give you multiple visuals, and then you can say, I like visual too, and then you can re-prompt in there. So I do like that aspect of it.
I think I actually do have a comment on this one. I think quality depends on how you've set up the constraints of whatever AI tool that you're using. So I know that there are a lot of products and tools out there today where you can, like, let's say you have a design system with like branded components and assets. I know Adobe Library has like a lot of great tools that will help kind of like, you can upload your brand assets and say like, I want 50 social like posts for these sizes and such. And so if you have a good, strong foundation of branded assets and components that it can kind of modularly use, I would say from a quality and production standpoint, that's great. If you don't have a good foundation for it to kind of base it off of, the output isn't that great. And you get a lot of variance in terms of just overall consistency. So I think you do need to spend some time to ensure that the quality of the output that you're looking for has a good foundational base, and yeah, and if it doesn't, then it's like, it's kind of a shotgun approach. Like, either the quality suffers because you're just trying to do something really fast, or the content then is like not exactly what you're looking for because like it's just kind of making things up out of thin air. So it really depends on how you structure, I think, the assets that you give it to create things.
I agree. It popped a thought in my head, and I think it all comes down to intent. Like, what are you intending to get out of that? Are you intending to do something lightweight, or are you intending to do something more? And I think people can feel that intent that you put in on the front end of what is coming out on the back end.
Yeah, I'd say it's like consumer-facing production level. Like, it depends on the brand, right? If it's like a really high-polished quality thing, like you probably might not get a lot of great quality output. But I think for brands that are like, hey, we're like our brand's authentic and like real, like live kind of thing, the quality can suffer a little bit. So you're just then using AI tools. Like, I just want to be able to do this really quick, just to get something out there, to be able to react to something live. And people are more forgiving if it's like not high res or something like that. So yeah, I think it all depends situationally what you're trying to achieve with the output in terms of quality.
So speaking of like uploading, you know, some of the brand assets and asking for all these outputs, talking about the clients, how are the clients kind of responding, you know, to this like AI-driven or AI-assisted kind of workflow? And how are you managing their expectations with AI? Any experience with that?
I think that in the beginning, I think that a lot of people were very hesitant to jump on the AI train as far as clients go. But now that we're further into it, I think clients are like, yeah, do you do AI onboarding new clients? Are you utilizing AI in your business right now? And if you say no, then like they'll walk away. And if you say yeah, they're like, okay, I'm all in. And a lot of that is because they know they're gonna get a faster production of whatever you're trying to give them, whether it's a website or graphic design. But they also expect lower budgets for some of these things as well. So yeah, I think it's mixed. It's a little mixed.
A lot of people care still in the space that we're in sales. It's happening over the phone. People feel it has to be a human. I want to talk to a person. And a lot of that is because there's a lot of garbage AI in the space. Again, everyone's a .ai now, right? Like, again, there's a lot of bad tools out there that will help you manage your workflow and save you all this time. Yeah, but I think that it's changing at a really, really breakneck pace. And more people are getting to that point where they're like, yes, it can be there. I mean, 11 Labs was saying that by mid next year, it's going to be indistinguishable from talking to people. I don't think they're wrong. I think we're really, really close.
I got tricked the other day with the AI assistant, by the way, like scheduling a medical appointment. I'm like, there was like pauses and breaks in like the tonality. I'm like, wait,
so,
are you real? I'm like, wow, that was like the best AI experience I've ever had on the phone.
And that's the changer for people is they don't care if it's a person or an AI. They care about the experience that they're having and are they getting what they're setting out to get.
Yeah.
Were you able to give them what they were looking for? Show of hands in the room, who here has called a number where they had to press 1 or press 2 or hold their spot in line for a callback and then talked to India? Yeah. I mean, it is an experience that is, if AI was answering that, talking to you, and was able to discontinue your account, save you on your next bill, order the food that you wanted to order or the product that you were looking to do, and you could do it all without having to deal with any of that. Wouldn't everyone prefer that experience? Of course. Give the people what they want.
I would say in the tech space, in terms of a kind of like what's the client's expectation working with AI, I don't know how many other people are kind of working in the tech space as like a creative or designer, but we have very clear levels of like advancement and maturity levels with AI tools. And so we've kind of set expectations very clear. So we will clearly label something a POC if it's just kind of like, hey, this is just an idea, we're throwing a prototype out there really quick just to kind of get some initial feedback. So we have POCs, MVP, alpha, beta, like there's all these different releases that help people understand what level of expectation they should have with an AI product. So that they're not just kind of going in there blind like, oh, I thought it was going to do this, and I can ask all these questions. Like, no, you're in an alpha phase or a beta phase, and so expect that it's going to have very limited like capabilities. So I don't know if that still kind of like also applies in the consumer space, but definitely in like the B2B, the B2B enterprise space, like we have very clear levels of AI maturity in the products that we're designing and building so that people understand like, okay, when I use this, even from a client perspective and an end user perspective, like I can only do these things, and they're going to be iterating and evolving this if there's value in that product. Like a lot of the things that we build, it has to have like a provable, quantifiable, measurable value. Like, did it save money? Did it save time? Like, is it doing something, right, to solve a business-related problem? Typically, if it doesn't make it past a certain maturity level. So in the tech space, we just have very clear expectations in terms of like levels of engagement.
Amazing.
I think it definitely depends on what industry you're in, because I'm like more into the web design marketing space.
Yeah.
So, you know, people in B2B, the customers are coming as business owners, and they're looking to speed up their quality and their time as far as having a website built or having their social strategy built out. So, but then on the other end, where I have cousins and family members who are using AI in a completely different way. They're using it to create a grocery shopping list and how to budget and things like that. So you have people out there still on that end who are very, very much afraid to use AI, and then others who are experimenting with AI in the way that they run their households.
The wife and kids were out of town the other week, and I didn't know what to make for dinner. So I opened up the cupboard and I asked AI. It was an eclectic mix.
You can just use Google for that. You don't.
I still use Google for that.
Stop burning water, okay? That's like a whole other thing, right? Other than ethics, it's like, what is the actual sustainability cost around like using AI? It's like something that maybe, I don't know if other people know in this space, like the servers that power these models and the technology, like astronomical, like mind-blowing. And I unfortunately don't have a statistic if someone can like chat GPT it. No, don't chat GPT it. Google it. Like, yeah, the cost of what it takes to use AI technology is like so scary and so real. I'm like, well, what can I do as like an end user consumer? It's like, I just feel like it's just part of the life that we're living. It's like, I'm gonna keep trucking along and do what I do, even though there's these horrible things just going on in our profession and like in the world. It's like, but I find that interesting. It's like the cost of technology and its usage versus the benefit of it and where it's evolving.
So, Jason, you talked about the experience. If you give them the experience and you give them the output or the outcome that they're looking for, it's going to be like good for them. But sometimes even when we have like, let's say, a complicated kind of subject in which you need some sort of conversational or style, and they feel that frustration from the chatbot or from the AI itself, and it's like, give me a human. I need to speak to a human who can actually understand me. So what's your experience as you build your company itself about making that experience better, especially for complicated kind of task requirements?
I believe that we can do it in pretty much every space. So if it's to a point where someone feels they need to talk to a person, I want to know why and where we went off the rails. And we're in spaces from, home health care to dog training to pizza to everywhere else in between. And there's levels of complexities when it comes to all of it, but home health care, dog training, my dog bit the baby, I have to get rid of my dog or my baby, like all of these things. And it's emotionally complex. It's 20 to 40 minute conversations with people. And having an AI that can go through that, I look at that and I go, counseling, therapy, again, home health care, funeral homes, afterlife care, things like that. If it's met with empathy and it is intelligent enough to have a conversation and a back and forth, where is the need for people? And not that I disagree, I just want to understand more and then go, okay, so how do we build that then? Because I think it can be built. And that's the fun stuff that I've seen in the last couple of years as this technology has continued to go down the rabbit hole, is it is becoming more capable.
So let's speak about the consumers, because they're part of the work that we actually do. And you mentioned also the environmental impact, and that's very true. Even my students are worried about the environmental impact and the use of AI for that aspect. But how, from your experience, how do you feel like the consumer responses or the consumer kind of reactions to the work or the content that you create? Like, I know each of you is in a different industry, but how was your experience getting that feedback from the consumer?
Specifically in the UX and product space, and I want to narrow my response to tech specifically, whenever possible, we try to incorporate feedback loops in our product. And so if it's, the difficulty with our work sometimes in the UX space is that before we design anything, we have to understand the behavioral intent of like, what is this product intending to solve? And there's like psychology behind that. We have to understand like empathy being one, and like what are the intents and the content that like someone might use in this space. If our feedback loops are saying that like it's not confirming our initial like hypotheses, then like we have to iterate. Like a lot of us in the tech space are pretty agile, where like we'll just, okay, let's scrap that feature and like try again. But I think we don't use consumers because I'm not like external facing. We call them just users, like end product users. But like, I mean, it's the same as consumers, right? Like people are more than happy to tell you when they're not happy, right? Like that didn't work. I didn't meet the expectation. So like I'm hitting that submit feedback or something went wrong. So we really actually leverage those a lot. And it's a lot harder than you think to get honest feedback from users or consumers, I would say, because if you were to ask them a question directly, they're going to respond with how they think you want to respond. And this is like a problem that happens a lot in like the research space in general. I think if you're like interviewing people or something like that. So like in product, like contextual feedback is really hard to get, but I feel like it's like the most honest and transparent, because it's not like, if there's not a person there, they'll just respond very honestly. So that's how we kind of use like customer feedback or.
I think that in my space, people definitely want it cheaper, they want it faster, and they want more variations. So Google Ads specifically, they A/B testing of landing pages. We want multiple landing pages where we would probably do 2 to 4 landing pages. They expect maybe 6 to 10 landing pages, and they want them faster. They want them, you know, the content should have a plethora of different variations on each landing page. So everything should be cheaper, faster, and more variations.
Yeah, people are people. They want it better, faster, stronger, all of that. I look at that and I go, the feedback that we get is a lot of that. Like, I wanted to do this more. I want more campaigns. I want more follow-up. I want, you know, this feature to be there more. One of the things that you said that was really interesting was like, people give you the answer that they think you want when they're talking to you directly. Same things, we started noticing this with sales, like, so a common sales objection, I got to talk it over with my wife. You know, it's a lot of money. People don't do that with AI because like the judgment isn't there. So they have a lot more candid conversations with them. The conversations are a little bit shorter as well because they can just talk to them. You know, what if, you know, the person on the other end of the phone says, hey, I'm an AI here to help you in whatever way you want. Tell me how I can help, as opposed to a person doing it. And how is that received, and how do people interact with it? And I think it's really interesting. Customer service also is way, way different because, again, you get someone calling so upset, you know, they're pressing that button. AI doesn't ever escalate. AI doesn't ever, you know, it's like the most patient, you know, thing that exists out there. And so it can de-escalate those situations a lot more with people. So I think the way that it interacts and the way that people can interact with it is really interesting too.
So we've been talking about like what AI can do, what it can actually offer. But I'm curious to explore more what AI can't do, you know, and what's still like so unique about what we do and so special that AI cannot still do.
I think we beat it over the head, but emotional empathy for sure, and cultural awareness. Like, what are societal norms that we know without being said, or, you know, who creating content for different spaces of people where AI wouldn't understand the context of some of these things, but we know like it's unethical to say that, or it's unethical to do that in certain rooms and spaces.
The ethics part, I think, is interesting because, like, we implemented a constitution for that exact reason. So I think that that can be some of the guardrails that you put on it. But I agree, it can't care. Like, it's not there yet. It cannot do that. It can't feel the weight of a dream. It can't feel the hope of a small business owner. It can mimic tone, but it lacks purpose in that fashion. So, like, that's where I think the people still are, like, there. They have to be driving it. They have to be reminding it why it's doing what it's doing and guiding it.
Yeah, I mean, we ultimately are the originators of, just anything that you create. It can't replicate that. It can't even generate that on its own because it's all prompt-based and we feed it instructions. So, I mean, it's never going to take away our ability to kind of create ideas out of thin air. So I think, I don't know, there was a period of time, and I think people still do kind of worry like, oh, AI is going to take my job. No, it can't take your thoughts, and it can't take your individual experiences that you inject into their work, right, and make it what it is. So that's just one area where it just can't replicate that human experience. It can only mirror, like, Jason was saying, it's just a mirror, right?
Like you said
it's a great parrot, it's a great mimic. It can make it feel so real and so close, but like, it's still not genuinely human.
I'll never forget, I was talking with one of our product and engineer people, and AI on the phone, if someone's cutting out, it has a hard time, speakerphone, it can have a hard time, things like that. And I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if it was having a hard time hearing someone and it said, hey, are you on speakerphone, or are you on a cell phone? You're kind of cutting out a little bit. And she turned to me and she went, it's great, but it doesn't have ears. It can't hear. And I was like, you know what I mean, though. Like, interpret the data. And we had a conversation about it, which sparked a really interesting solution of, like, having it listen recursively for 0.6 milliseconds backwards over a running span of 6 seconds. And then if it's capturing less than 60% of what's being said, it can ask that question. And then if it happens multiple times through the call, it has different questions that it can ask along that same line. So it's thinking of the things that it can't do, but then also trying to find ways to have it be able to.
Okay. So what about like the agencies or the company itself, its role towards its own employees? How can it actually help and offer support to upskilling, the professionals to be ready and prepared to use AI? What do you think about that? What role should they do, and what level of support or what type of support is needed nowadays?
I have so many pain points here because as creatives, we're constantly told by everybody, like, you should be able to use AI and you should be able to use these tools and like everything's at your fingertips. I'm like, yeah, have you seen the list of 100 things that have like literally popped out yesterday that's supposed to solve my problem? There's just no time in the day to explore all the creative tools that exist and are constantly being built and released. And so I think the difficulty in the tech space is there's this implication and like expectation around creative people, like, oh, you should just be like able to use, like you should be a master at using AI tools. Well, you're not, one, giving me the support and training to use AI in the way that you, client, want me to use it, or we kind of see the opposite. We're like, okay, we want you to use AI, but we have these restrictions either due to constraints or industry constraints, and so like you can only use it to this much. And so I think there's a lot that employers still need to do on just kind of like the education part of like, how do we upskill our workforce to adopt AI tools that'll really benefit them and accelerate the overall output of like, because you can't just ask people to like adopt AI tools. Like, it has to be a cultural change, and that's actually a lot harder to do the bigger your organization is. And so the client that I'm consulting for right now, Fortune 500 pharma company, you can imagine being around for 150 years, all of a sudden asking all your employees to like, oh, you should be using AI somewhere in your workflow today. Well, how, when, where? your business processes are broken, so I can't actually use AI because you can't apply something on it can't just magically fix things. So as a creative in the tech space, I'm increasingly frustrated with that expectation. It's like a dual edge, double standard for us. We're like, you're supposed to be leading the edge. Well, but you also then need to set those expectations and tell us what trainings we need to have to meet a certain level of quality or output, right? I think that's the difficult part, at least for me working in the tech space.
Note to self, create an AI product that sorts through AI products.
I think there are, and that's another problem, right? Because that list will continually be updated literally every week.
Yeah. So I think that back when AI kind of first hit the general public scene, I was doing this workshop at the MGM, and the guy putting on the workshop was like, here's the new biggest thing that's coming. You guys, and he literally was like, you guys need to be the pilots of this. You guys are gonna need to fly this plane because somebody needs to learn how to fly the plane. And this is how you're gonna keep your jobs, because you need people who know how to fly this plane. And with that being said, he was like, oh, you guys should be, we're all now a room full of AI pilots. Somebody needs to know how to drive it. Somebody needs to know how to teach a whole team of people how to do that. So you guys become the pilot, you guys become the teachers, you get job security. So with that being said, I think that organizations need to implement a whole team of pilots, AI pilots, to train onboarding members on how to prompt AI, how to utilize AI ethically, whether it's using image AI, using workflow AI, using content AI, whatever it is that you're gonna be using, create a team for it, a team of experts to be able to pilot that plane.
Okay, but wait, follow-up question. When he said that to you, did he actively give you time and space to do that, or was the expectation, oh, you do that off hours?
Well, so this is me always in my self-learning and self-teaching journey. I was just in a random workshop. It had absolutely nothing to do with my 9-to-5 job.
Okay,
So
it's
that weekend, because this workshop took place on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He had that conversation on a Friday. By Saturday, I was creating my own chat bot. I went into my Mac, and I started to create all these different prompts, basically, to be able to get it to start talking to me and to start giving me feedback and all these things. So I had to actually go back into my web design coding bag that I hadn't been in so many years and start doing some JavaScript again. So this was before we know AI as it is, where we had to actually create the chatbot itself. And now, maybe about 3 to 6 months down the line, we had ChatGPT come out, and I'm like, man, I just sat here and took 3 freaking days out of my, 3 freaking days and created this whole chatbot, and I was so excited about it. Now we have this open source tool, so yeah.
So I'm going to ask one more question, then we're going to open the floor for the Q&A. What is the biggest challenges that you faced when integrating AI, or what kind of fears or concerns you have about the use of AI in your work?
I think, again, if you let it do the work for you and you stop actively being involved in it and you're just having it, if you're copy pasting, that is my fear for the humanity. With some of the movies out there like Idiocracy and things like that. I think people are prone to some laziness, and it can perpetuate laziness. So being active, still piloting the plane, and then from a customer perspective, like clients scared that it'll affect their business negatively, or their brand, or their reputation, and employees. It's going to take my job. And I think it's about enabling people to be people again, human again. Like, we're all wrapped up in a lot of other stuff all the time. use the tech to leverage it to get the time back and then spend the time doing something else. Like, go be people. It's fun.
I for sure think original creativity and being able to harness those foundational skills, like I was saying at the beginning, I don't really allow my babies to just go straight to AI. Like, let's get these thought processes flowing first. Let's take pen to paper. Let's break out some crayons. Let's draw some things. Let's really get down to it how we used to get down to it when I was a kid, and then we can go to AI for the next steps. Like, let's talk about how much it costs to create a headphone company and what are the processes and who are the people and the roles that are at play. But before we get there, let's think about your logo and your brand colors and let's draw those things out.
I think with all the talk about AI automation, AI agents, and agentic workflows, like people are just throwing these phrases out there. With my profession, we always kind of champion the human in the loop, right? There's always got to be touch points along the way where we are making the human the center of all the AI processes, so that we don't ever lose that, like, the empathy or the intent behind something. You can automate a lot of things, but we try to always keep the user centered and the focus. Like, everything is human centric, even with however much AI you layer around them.
Interesting. So I guess going to open now for the Q&A. You still have your question?
I just asked Copilot. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I actually kind of did, but I refined it while he gave me all this time, so I was able to refine my question. Okay, so specifically with AI and creative, so AI essentially works because it was trained on this model of data, right? And in my personal experience, like I had a company, I was trying to come up with a slogan or copyright for it, and it spit out this list of like 10 different things. I picked one, start going with it. Later I find out it literally was a ripoff of one of the main competitors that I was, and I'm like, what? And I got so mad, and then it just apologized. Oh my God, you're right, I'm so sorry, I won't do that again. So like, how do you ensure, like especially in the creative space, that what you're getting is original? I don't know that you can, like with AI. It's by nature not really that original, right? Like, does that make sense?
I think the first thing you should go to do is to go to Silverflume when you find out a name and put it into the database and say, is this business name already taken? And it'll let you know.
It was like a slogan.
Got you.
Just do it.
Yeah, I think this is, this kind of comes back to the whole education piece and how do consumers understand the expectations around, like, well, when I use this AI product, what is it actually going to do for me? A lot of consumers think, or users just think it's a one-stop shop, right? If I just use this AI tool, start to finish, it's going to do everything. It's going to understand my intent, right, and then give the output I'm looking for. What's usually missing from a lot of these AI products is that it doesn't think about contextually what you're trying to achieve behind that question that you asked. Like, well, I want a tagline for this purpose. Well, like you said, well, you need to fact check that, whatever output you give me, against Silverflume, have it check this, and like, you still have to be the person to orchestrate and instruct the agent to say, or whatever platform you're using, like, okay, when you come up with these concepts, you need to check that it's not registered anywhere, right? These aren't registered copyrights or trademark copyrights. So I think that's part of the whole learning experience still today. A lot of people, like, depending on your experience with AI, understanding, like, okay, what constraints do I need to put in there so I'm getting a good output? And if you're someone new to it, you're just going to ask it a really basic question, and it's not going to understand your intent. So it's unfortunately a difficult still learning process on how to instruct it properly and give it all the constraints that it needs to give you a better output. Long answer.
It's never going to be truly original by nature of the way it's
I don't think so. I think true original, I mean, I don't know how much human creative thought today is genuinely original. You know, it's all just kind of like mishmash, right? Like, I don't know how many like new
We all like
things
to
are
think
actually
it
created
is.
today. But
So Actually, I can answer. I would like to answer. So there's an easy answer in which like you need to kind of clearly mention it in the prompt itself, what it needs to be done and what needs to not just include, but also what to exclude to make sure that the output is excluding certain competitors or certain like, you know, aspect that you're looking for. But also there is like, you can build your own, let's say GPT or something like that, in which you're giving it certain instruction. You're still taking advantage of all these like AI and the machine learning, but you're telling it to behave in a certain way that kind of feeds what you want it to do. And my own also strategy is that I always give it the starting point. So sometimes many people would actually go and start brainstorming with AI, but I personally felt like the best and effective way to do it is when you actually just come up with the initial ideas yourself, and then you put it in AI and it starts brainstorming. So it's starting from where you want it to start rather than starting from where it's feeding the data, and that's why it's bringing that competition kind of background, if that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I also, I think you should build a relationship with the AI that you're using. Have it learn you, your voice, how you interact. If you've ever written anything original, load that up and have it remember that as an original piece of something that you wrote and pull from that for inspiration and how it interacts for what you're wanting it to build to. It's been super helpful on our side.
Any other question? Yeah.
I have a question for Jason, kind of touching on the idea of giving the AI its own data set, right? Basically its own large language models, right? You guys created your own brain, as you said, right? So how is the trained brain that you guys created different from typical large language models or ML systems, right? And should every company and brand be investing in developing their own large language models and ML systems to streamline functionality within their organization?
I mean, it's a great point, and a lot of people want to develop their own until they get down this path of developing their own. It is not easy. Ours is different for a couple of reasons. There's an orchestration layer, and then there's an ANBS layer that does recursive learning. And the recursive learning, when we started mapping out human consciousness and how the brain works, and started looking at AI and how we can use that to map points for AI to learn from each conversation that it's having, and not only what's being said, but how it's being said, tone, intent, pause, space in between language, and then how to interpret that. Those are the things that we found were lacking in the space that we started building on our own that make us a little bit different. But yeah, I think everyone should have their own version of that. Getting there is different or harder. So like, do you buy it? Do you rent it? Do you build it?
Any other questions? Yes, please.
I have a question about AGI, right? Like, I think everything that we talked about the entire night and everything that we've experienced so far is about the AI tools that are available right now, which are somewhat limited and they do require that interaction or interface or guidance. So AGI is the idea that it will be completely autonomous, that it will not need any sort of, input or guidance or anything at all. So how do you guys feel about that? Because it's definitely coming, and there is definitely a race towards that. I feel very concerned personally, and I would like to know your ideas and thoughts since you have worked with AI every day.
I personally feel like, we're gonna always need the human. We're gonna always need the human, no matter how much we try to take the human aspect out of it. We're gonna always need the human there, because what happens if the AI breaks down, so to speak, or if it's not outputting the right thing? Like, who's gonna fix it? We're the ones who have to fix those things. We have to be the check.
Add robotics to an AGI, right? There's a physical element and there is a
But then what if that robot breaks down? Like, you always need that check and balance. You always need a check and balance. I mean, we have laws because we need checks and balances as humans. So personally, I don't believe that the human element is gonna go anywhere. We might be removed quite a bit, but I think we're gonna always need a human element personally.
That's a complex question.
I know,
think.
there's like lots of stuff kicking around in my head right now, for sure.
Yeah, I think depends. You talked about AI automation or agentic automation, maybe like kind of in machines, right? Like production lines that are like physically building something. Like you can make that autonomous with no human oversight, right? I think there are industries that are leveraging AGI to like, hey, I'm gonna make this closed loop system and it's gonna be completely autonomous and there's very little human oversight. But I think I know that there's actually a certain group of AI ethics people that are actually attacking this problem right now, which is like, where's the line, right? At what point do you just kind of like give over that control, and like where does the human kind of fit in those future state scenarios where it is all completely autonomous? I think they're still kind of exploring and refining what that conversation and that strategy looks like because it's evolving so quickly. But I think it's different in every industry in terms of like how people are using or even talking about fully automated agentic agent like ecosystems. Am I concerned about it? Yes, I've watched plenty of things on YouTube. I'm like, oh my God. Like they're like, I thought there was something that was just released last month where they're talking about the two future state scenarios of like a fully agentic future state versus one where it's like ethically guided by humans still in the loop. And like that story is horrifying, like if it were to ever go there. So I think at least there are people out there creating content to kind of bring more awareness to the topic. And hopefully if you're interested, you can kind of find those resources to like, hey, this is like a space that I'm really like wanting to be an advocate for, like find those places. I can try to pull up those URLs. But there are groups that are really concerned with like fully automated ecosystems and actively working against to create guiding principles and constraints of like how do we contain and keep it helpful and not harmful.
I think we're at a frontier. I like working in AI and building what we've built. I feel like a frontiersman. I mean, there's parts of the ocean that still are not explored. Space is always a frontier, but this is a frontier, and it should be exciting and terrifying at the same time. And what you're talking about is both of those things, and I think that that's the right vibe to walk into it with.
So I'm going to take a quick answer. So I'm not actually concerned about the AGI. I'm more concerned of the ASI. The ASI is more when it becomes exceeding the human intelligence. Then it gets to be a little bit concerning how we're going to be able to handle that. But last week we were talking about the genetic AI even going into our UNLV system and answering quizzes, changing grades. But I think what matters is how we are going to respond to that, because the change is happening. But it's mainly how are we going to react and respond to it. That's going to make the big difference. So I guess that's the end of today. I think the discussion about like AI will never going to end, and it will keep evolving as this technology is always evolving. I would like to thank you for your time and thank our beautiful panelists for sharing their experience today, and thank you for coming. And we'll see you maybe at next event.
Thank you guys so much for supporting the American Advertising Federation and taking part of this discussion here. It's clear that AI isn't replacing creativity, it's just redefining it. And we're living in exciting times. Just a couple of heads up, a couple of dates I want to make you guys aware of. November 9th, the American Advertising Federation is partnering with Families for Effective Autism Treatment, and we're going to be putting together pickleball teams, and it's a pickleball and poker tournament. So if you want to represent the American Advertising Federation on a pickleball team or playing poker on behalf of the American Advertising Federation, please let me know and I'll get you signed up. That's November 9th. Thursday, November 20th, we're going to be doing a Sip and Meet networking event at Born and Raised in the Southwest. Stay tuned. I'll make sure you all get announced for that. And we're partnering with the American Marketing Association on December 5th to host our holiday jingle mingle mixer. And thank you guys so much for being a part of this. The American Advertising Federation Las Vegas is back in Las Vegas, and you guys are a part of us coming back. Thank you so much for being here. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. I just want to announce really quick, Jason Trinka from Rainmaker.ai, RAYNMAKER.ai. It's a sales engine that you guys should check out. Annie Cho from Ancora. Yeah, call him. Franisha Hayes from Bloom Creative Studio, and our awesome moderator, Dr. Ayashata from UNLV. Thank you guys. Give them a round of applause, and thank you guys for being here today. Have a great night. The bar is open till 10.